It's not fun getting it in there in the cold. Got this thing hooked up. My hands are freezing. Okay. Well, I would say ordinarily I wouldn't run a heater in the back of my truck. I'd probably run my diesel heater. But kind of killing two birds with one stone. I am freezing and I need to test this battery. So this runs about as much as my air conditioner. Don't need my air conditioner right now, so I'm using my heater. Trying to heat this place up. With the size of this battery, it should run roughly about 7 or 8 hours. At that power level, yeah, I would think 7 or 8. It's showing 8 on there. Yeah, let's test the capacity of this thing while also warming myself up because it is freezing. And find my thermometer. It's showing just above 20 degrees, which right now shows it's about 18 degrees out real field. Got a timer going. See how long this thing runs for. Running a bit more power now, 513 watts, but still shows it would be that 7-hour mark. Almost 40 amp hours exactly. And yeah, shows about 40 amp hours. And it's showing we're at almost 60 degrees in here now. The heater's still going. Shows we're about 70 something degrees, 72-ish. Yes, 29 amp hours left, almost at 7 hours. Alright, just hit the 7-hour mark. Shows it still has 7% left. So I'm gonna turn that off now because it is hot in here. From when I started the heater with the battery having such a large capacity, it would have made it into the next day to start recharging, theoretically anyway. Obviously, if I had my solar panels out, they would have been completely covered in snow from the storm. If you're wondering what the power consumption would have looked like if I used my diesel heater instead of the space heater, I'll show that now. Okay, it's showing off this 300 amp hour battery that it run for almost 100 hours at about 20-ish watts per hour. So this thing will run for a very long time off this. Only pulls about 2 amps. Alright, good morning. Not very much power. It's only pulling in 30 watts, but it looks like a beautiful day. Now I got 99 watts going in there. Change the placement. Yeah, we're back at 300%, or we're back at 100%, 300 amp hour. Vatrer sent me this battery. Hopefully it gets me a step closer to being completely off-grid and self-sustainable as far as power goes. Other batteries I have are nice and all, but you're always going to find yourself needing more power. As far as these lithium phosphate batteries go, I really like them. They're safer than your average battery. They have a BMS for protection. This one has a 200 amp output, which is more powerful than my inverter can put out. So that's 2,560 watts, which for the smaller batteries, that's kind of a hindrance on them because they only usually have 100 amp hour BMS. So that means they can only put out 1,280 watts. So you might not be able to run a microwave on them. So having a bigger battery like this is really nice as long as you have the inverter for it. Even if you put a smaller inverter on it, it can power it no problem. Another thing is the capacity size. Since this says 3,840 watt hour, you can run larger appliances and still have some juice left over. With the other ones, you're going to run out of power and have to charge it over and over. Something like this, you might be able to make it to the next day and still have power. This one even has self-heating. Wasn't quite sure how the self-heating works. It doesn't heat itself at all times to keep itself warm. It only heats itself when it's below a certain temperature and while you connect a charger to it. So it won't damage the cells while you're charging it up. All around nice to have. It charged fast too. I only have a 20 amp charger, so it took about 14 hours to charge this thing on the low end if it's around 10%. So I could definitely use a larger charger because it can take up to 200 amps intake or input. So this thing can charge really fast. And another thing is they usually are app controlled, so you're able to see exactly how much power you have left. This brand is pretty pricey, but you know, it's a really nice brand. But they are running a promotion for Black Friday that you might be able to take advantage of if you're looking for this sort of thing. I've been living in my truck for over a year now, and honestly, like anything less just seems inadequate. You're going to need something very large to live this lifestyle, or at least try to. For most of my other batteries, you know, it wouldn't make it to the next day to where you could charge it back up by sun and have a system that actually replenishes itself and is continuous or self-sustaining. So if you're trying to do any type of off-grid lifestyle, you're going to need a really big battery. And I think this is probably the minimum of what you should start with, unless you're putting batteries in series in parallel or something like that, which is crazy to think you could put 4 in series or 4 in parallel of these and have a really big battery system. Even with the size of this battery, running an air conditioner, you only be able to run it for 7 hours, or heater, electric heater, you only be able to run it for 7 hours with a 500 watt draw. So you're going to need something really big if you plan on, you know, running a microwave or anything like that. Oh, and another reason in particular I wanted this battery is because the power to weight ratio. Like, there's bigger batteries on the market. I think I've seen up to like 460 amp hour and higher, but this is, for me, a good power to weight ratio. It's about 60 pounds, so I can still carry it by myself, which is really important to me in case I do need to pull it out of the back of my truck and take it somewhere to be charged. I can carry it, and it has these heavy duty straps for that. And it is a large battery, but once I slide it under my bed, it really doesn't take up that much space, especially when you consider how much power is stored in this thing.